Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. Victory Tuesday. Boy, it feels so sweet. Washington gets the major upset over the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football, 32-21. 11-point underdogs. I still can't wrap my brain around that number. 11-point underdogs. They win the game by 11 points to the Commanders, dominate the football game, time of possession, first downs. They really took it to the Philadelphia Eagles, forced 4 turnovers. Eagles came into the game only having surrendered the football 3 times on the season. So they exceeded their amount of turnovers on the entire year in this game. So many things transpired in this football game. But honestly, when you look at how Washington has been playing over the last month or so, this is in line with what they've been doing. Not necessarily how effective they were offensively. And again, this was their first complete game start to finish of the season. This has been fun. I've literally spent 2/3 of my day today being petty, which is, I love being petty when the pettiness is brought to me. Okay, the pettiness was dropped on my doorstep earlier in the season, and they were dogpiling on when we were down. When we were 1-4, they were pointing and laughing, and they were dogpiling. And every week I'd be minding my business, and someone else would at me and throw a whole bunch of, gasoline on a fire that was raging. And I'm like, okay, don't worry. And I told Lord Brunson and his minions, you better not be undefeated when we see you. I want you to be. I hope, I'm praying that you're undefeated when we see y'all, because we're going to show everybody how to do it. And we did it. And so I've spent the day trolling, essentially. I spent the whole day being petty, and I've got more in the chamber. Like, the Lord said, bro, you deserve this. You and the rest of the fan base, y'all deserve this. It's a little bit of, this is just a taste of the good juju that can come your way if Dan Snyder is no longer your owner. However, he said, I couldn't let you get the sweep. Because you see how you're acting? Now imagine had this been the completion of a season sweep against the Eagles. Yeah, I would have lost my shit. I would have been, let's just say I would have been unhinged. and in a good way for Washington fans, but for Eagles fans, it would have been terrible. And we're just 5-5. It's not like, we're 7-3 or anything like that. It'd be a lot worse if we were, and it doesn't matter to me. I was talking shit when we were 2-4, when we did the last, Super Friends stream. I was talking shit then. So, it doesn't matter to me. 2-4, 5-5, 7-3, you're going to get the same old tea. So this has been fun. I'm enjoying this. This will be the last day that I enjoy it. Okay. Tomorrow, I'm lying. I'm going to enjoy it tomorrow as well. But we have to start to turn the page tomorrow. The Texans are coming up, and very quickly, I may add, short work week. And we can't allow this win to cloud our judgment and stop us from the task at hand, which is to go 1-0 each week, keep stacking dubs like bricks in the left-hand column, and just keep it pushing, okay? This was a big win. Don't get it twisted. And you saw the players. Honestly, F them. F the Eagles, right? That's what the boys were saying in the locker room. F them. I'm with it. You know how I am. I'm with it. I love the energy. However, Ron talked about this, and I'll talk about it at greater lengths when we get to our next segment. But Ron said, I got to have a chat with the fellas because they were on one. Now, he said, I love the enthusiasm, but they were on one. We'll get to more of that a little bit later on in the show. But I loved all the energy. The only thing I didn't love was the jockeying of Kirk Cousins on the plane with Taylor Heineke having on all the ice. That's the Vikings Kirk Cousins thing. Let them have that. Like, don't try to infringe upon what they're doing over there. That's a Kirk Cousins thing. They started that. It's almost like the turnover chain with the University of Miami, and then how everybody else wanted to go, do something unique. Georgia wanted to have the spiked shoulder pads, and this team wanted a championship belt, and everybody tried to go one up the next team. But it started with the turnover chain in the University of Miami, and I kind of just want to let the Vikings have that. They started that, let them have that. I didn't like that portion of it. But everything else, I was on board with. Walk in your trap, take your trap. I was on board for all of the chicanery, Chase Young going live. I was there for all of that. Yeah. I was there for all of it. I loved it, every second of it. Let those boys know that they thought that they were going to overlook us, that we were going to come in there and lay down for them and let them go to 9-0, and they had to find out the hard way. It's family business. And you had no business overlooking us. So that felt good. And look, there's a lot of things to clean up. We were not perfect in the game. There's so many things that we can talk about. I think I'll save a lot of that for the live stream tomorrow night. And again, we'll be turning the page to the Texans, but we'll be still talking about this Eagles victory tomorrow night. And there's so many things I want to get into. I'll have a chance to look at the film, and we'll be able to turn the page, but there'll be so much that we can really dive into, because there's so many little intricacies of what took place in this game. So many guys that we didn't talk about. I mean, we could sit here and talk about the Sam Cosmi, Cornelius Lucas split at right tackle. Like, what the hell is that about, right? So there's so many things that we can really delve into. I think we'll do that at greater lengths tomorrow. Today, I'm just more so soaking up the dub, really just taking it all in, understanding what we were able to accomplish, because that was no easy feat. Going on the road against an undefeated team in their environment on a Monday night and winning a ball game that nobody gave us a chance to win except for Alex Smith. So to get to 5-5, and I talked about it last week and how important it was, the big difference between 5-5 and 4-6 and what it could mean. Now, again, you don't want to cancel out what was done here by losing a game you have no business losing. So we've got to take care of business, and that's what Ron Rivera, and I love the message that Ron had. Speaking of which, let's continue on. Celebrate, goddammit. We beat the Philadelphia Eagles in their building, knocked them from the ranks of the unbeaten. Their stinking ass is no longer undefeated. Damn, that shit feels good. Ron Rivera was really good today. I mean, really, really good today. So let's jump into what he had to say. So the first thing we need to talk about, quarterback, right? Quarterback, they haven't made a decision. Ron said, I'm going to talk with Scott. I'm going to talk with Ken Zampese, quarterback's coach. And we're going to sit down and we're going to make a decision on what's best for the team moving forward. Now, Ron, his message was a bit, I thought, convoluted, because on one hand, he was like, when we make this decision, it's a decision that we're going to move with moving forward, because I don't want the quarterback looking over his shoulder. When we make the decision, he's our guy. But then he was asked another question to kind of confirm that, like, hey, so what you're essentially saying is if whoever you designate the starter, that's the guy moving forward. And he's like, well, it's week to week. That's how we're moving. That's one game at a time. So I'm like, that's not what you just said. But I just think they want to keep all options open, because if you allow them to pigeonhole you into a statement, then if you decide to go in a different direction at a later date and time, they're going to throw that back in your face. And he knows that. And so I think he realized after saying what he said, I probably shouldn't have said that. And he tried to kind of then throw a monkey wrench in it. But all with that said, I'm going to just tell you, listening to him talk, I think he's leaning towards Taylor Heinicke. But he's not going to make this decision by himself. Scott Turner could be angling for Carson Wentz, and Ken Zampese could be angling for Carson Wentz as well. And they could persuade Ron, who probably feels like Heinicke gives them the best chance right now. And because of the mojo that he has, the swagger that he's playing with, and how he's got the team believing. And Ron mentioned those things like, you go with the guy that, has the team believing, and that's Taylor Heineke right now. So a lot of what Ron was saying had me feeling like he right now is leaning towards Taylor Heineke, but I think he's going to allow the input from the other coaches to weigh heavily in the decision-making process. So I think we'll know by tomorrow, because obviously you start the work week tomorrow. You're not splitting snaps. This isn't the preseason. This isn't training camp. You have to make a decision. The team needs to know who's going to start. He'll probably tell them that in the meetings before practice. And then you hit the practice field, and again, Ron also talked about, finding out from the doctors where Carson is and all of those things. Those are pertinent, pieces of information. He may not be ready to go yet, so we'll find out more tomorrow. But there was no definitive answer on the quarterback position. I think they're leaning towards Taylor Heineke, and I think rightfully so. Anyway, I know there's some of you out there still that think Carson Wentz, and I've said this already, we failed Carson Wentz the first time around before his injury with the offensive line. That's been somewhat corrected. You'd like to think that with Wentz in there, this offense has a chance to be more dynamic, but I don't know about that, man. We know the upside is greater with Wentz, but I don't know. I guess I'm just a little bit nervous to make that move, because even though Wentz had a raw deal the first time around, he wasn't winning games. He wasn't making winning plays. And again, I think I keep harking back to is the mobility or lack thereof. That really is a problem for me, the inability to move. So many of these games that we've won this season have come down to Heineke's legs in some crucial situations, and you just haven't seen that from Carson Wentz this season. But we'll see what they decide to do. The next update on a player was Chase Young, and there was a report from Adam Schefter. When I woke up this morning, I saw breaking news Chase Young, and I'm like, whoa, I got a little nervous, because I'm like, it's Tuesday. Why am I getting Chase Young breaking news? So my heart dropped, and then it said Chase Young to be activated this weekend and play against the Texans. Now, Ron did not confirm that. I think that is more likely than not going to be the case if things go well at practice this week. There are some things Ron and Jack are looking for from him in order to make that determination, but they are running out of time. That shot clock that they started a couple of weeks ago is about to run out here in the next week or so. So they've got to make a decision. Obviously, they're not going to put him on season-ending IR, so they're going to activate him. So that's going to happen here shortly. The question is, will he play? He can be active and not play, right? So, we'll see what they decide to do with him and how practice goes for him this week. I'm not the biggest fan of him starting out his first game on a artificial surface in Houston. You'd much rather him start out on a grass surface, like at home. But, it is what it is. If they determine that he's ready to go, and Houston is the destination, well, we got liftoff then. Hopefully we don't have a problem, or I'm hoping the Texans have a problem, a huge problem, 99 problems as a matter of fact. But we'll see. At the end of the day, I think practice is going to determine whether Chase Young plays this week or not. He's either playing this week or next week. It's one or the other. They can't push it out any further. So it's either this week or it's next week against Atlanta. I think they're aiming for this week. But then again, I thought they were aiming for last week against the Eagles. So what do I know? We'll see what happens. Ron talked about the overall play of the team in this game, said they did a lot of good things. He made it a point of emphasis to mention the coordinators, specifically Scott Turner and the offense and their ability to run the football. And I think that's something we know that's what Ron wants to do. At his core, Ron wants to run the football, play it a little bit closer to the vest. He's not opposed to pushing the football down the field and throwing the football around the yard. But, Ron would much prefer, he's from the old school, he would much prefer to run the football, get into those third and manageables and convert like he did in this game, like he did during the 4-game win streak last year. He's referenced that 4-game win streak. You remember, I was getting annoyed with how often he would mention that 4-game win streak because we weren't scoring a ton of points during that 4-game win streak. But we were running the football very effectively. We were controlling the clock in time of possession. and we were able to stave teams off and win ball games, and that's what we did last night against the Eagles. And I think that's what Ron ultimately wants to do. He talked about the average per carry and how it wasn't very high, but he made a great point and something that I know I didn't take into consideration, but it's true. There were a number of short yardage carries. There were a number of goal to goal situations where you're running the football looking to get a yard, 2 yards to move the sticks or to score a touchdown. Antonio Gibson's run from the one where he dives over the top. That's a 1 yard run. It's a touchdown. It's effective. That's what you want. But it's a 1 yard run, so it brings down your average. Brian Robinson had at least 2 or 3 carries on third and short, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, where he just got the first down. Didn't get anything else extra, just got the first down, whether it was 1 yard or 2 yards that he needed. That brings your average down, but you achieved what you were looking to achieve on that particular snap, which is to move the sticks, get the first down. So Ron made mention of that, and he said, so I'm not really, and it makes sense when you think about it because we were consistently getting 3 and 4 and 5. That's how you end up in 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, which we ended up in a ton of those in this game. There were some 3rd and 6s, 7s and 8s as well, and we converted some of those. But for the most part, of the 12 third down conversions that we converted out of the 21 we attempted, I'd probably say 9 of them were, 3rd and 5 or less. Probably more like 3rd and 4 or less. Probably like 7 of them were 3rd and 4 or less. So that you can attribute that directly to the ability of our, us running the football on 1st and 2nd downs and staying ahead of the sticks, not having penalties, things of that nature. So Ron was really excited about that. He talked about some of the defensive performances of players. Talked about the Benjamin St. Juste play, hustling on that play, which was huge when he forced the fumble of Quez Watkins. Talked about Derek Forrest being back there and, hustling to the football. Again, good things happen when you run to the ball. There were 2 commanders, one being St. Juste who forced the fumble, another being, I don't know who that was, who dove in there when Devontae Smith was coming in there to try to recover the fumble. If those 2 guys don't converge on the football and hit Devontae Smith as he's going for it, he may recover that football. It would have been a disaster to have one Eagle be there and recover it. But because those 2 guys were hustling and fighting for that football, it squirted out, and that made it easy for Derek Forrest to scoop it up and get that turnover for Washington. That was a huge sequence in the game, and Ron made mention of that. He talked about the celebration after the game from the players in the locker room, and he said, look, I'm going to have a talk with the young guys in the locker room. And he did it with a smile and a chuckle, so obviously he's not going to grill them too bad, but he is going to let them know that you got to act like you've been there before. But he said, that shows me that they've never really been there before, and it's a lot of young boys in the locker room. But look, ignorance is ignorance, and we were being ignorant after the win. And I can't even say it was ignorant because they knew what they were doing. Like, Bobby McCain is a veteran. He's been in the league long enough to know better. Bobby didn't care. He was one of the main ones saying, F him. That was the mindset they had coming into that game. Like, there was disrespect. I told you, I took it personal. And obviously the players did as well. Anytime you're an 11-point underdog, everybody's just overlooking you again. The disrespect came in so many different forms, whether it was the point spread, whether it was, everyone projecting the Eagles to win this game. I thought the most disrespectful thing outside of the spread, because there was no way the Eagles were beating us by 11 or more in this game. No way they were covering that number. Not with the way we were playing football. That was so disrespectful by Vegas. However, the thing that I felt like was more disrespectful than that was all the questions about when will the Eagles get their next loss? And everybody was just glossing over Washington. Like, okay, they got Indianapolis in week 9, as if we didn't exist. Like, okay, they got Indianapolis in week 11. They've got the Giants for the first time after that, or I think they got the Packers after that, and then they got the Giants for the first time. Whatever the case may be, they just leapt over us as if we didn't exist. Like, this week 10 matchup wasn't on the schedule. Oh, that shit got me hot under the collar, and I'm pretty sure those players felt the same way. And then they had extra added motivation with Ron and what he was going through, and so they wanted to get it for him too. But Ron said, yeah, they were a little hyped after the game, And obviously, Ron saw all of the different, live streams from Tez to Chase to, all of those dudes that were live after the game. Um, Cam Curl went live. I think his was the most vulgar and also the most entertaining. But Ron, he understands. These guys are young and they're having fun. And that's what you want. You want guys having fun, but at the same time, act like you've been there. That's what he said. And he's going to make sure that they know, hey, that's not how we conduct ourselves. We didn't just win the Super Bowl. All right. We just won a regular season game. Now, they were undefeated, and that's why there's that emotion. They're undefeated. They smoked us the first time. The disrespect was there. Their head coach was talking about Art Monk. Like, there was a lot, and he didn't say anything ridiculous. He just, again, unnecessary shit, right? Just more fuel to the fire. Terry McLaurin mentioned it at the beginning of his press conference. Like, yeah, I'm going to take Arthur Monk over Mike Quick. Like, and Terry didn't get into specifics, but that's what he was referring to. So, again, they gave us all the ammunition we needed, and we used it quite well, I may add. So, a lot of good things from Ron in that presser today. So let's take a look at where we are now. Let's start with the NFC. Let's take a trip around the NFC East, and then we'll go to the conference as a whole. So the Giants got it done against the Houston Texans. So the Giants are now 7-2 on the season, playing phenomenal football. And they get the Lions next week, so they could easily be 8-2. I mean, the schedule is just beautiful for everybody in this division if you take advantage of it. And the Giants have done that, and I have to give them credit for doing what they are supposed to do. Meanwhile, the Cowboys blew a 14-point lead at Lambeau. It is the first time that the Cowboys went into the fourth quarter with a 14-point lead and lost the game. The Cowboys were 195-0 when leading by 14 or more points heading to the fourth quarter. Unbelievable stat. That is no more. They lost the game in overtime to the Green Bay Packers 31-28. And so that streak is dead. And they are now 6-3 on the season, are the Dallas Cowboys. So things getting quite interesting in the NFC East. Why is that? Because Washington took care of business, of course, against the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles are now 8-1, so the Giants are just a game back of the Philadelphia Eagles, and they have not played them once this season. So that season series is going to go a long way in determining who may ultimately not only be the NFC East champ, but who may be the number one seed in the NFC. Now, the Vikings have a lot to say about that as well, but they've got their own things that they've got to worry about, like the Dallas Cowboys this week coming to their building. So a lot of intrigue there in the division. We're 5-5 now with the big win. And again, now let's see where we go from there. The entire division is at or above 500 once again. Best win percentage of a division in NFL history this late into the season. So again, glad we can be a part of that mix. Hopefully we can add to that this week. So now let's get to the entire conference. Where do we sit right now? So as you can see, the Washington Commanders sit here at 8th. As you look at the rank, Washington is 8th in the conference. So if the playoffs started today, we'd be on the outside looking in. Good thing for us. Playoffs don't start in November, so we've got time. Obviously, the 49ers are a half game ahead of us. They've had their bye week. We have not. We're going to have the latest possible bye a team can have this season. Our bye doesn't come, in, of course, until week 14. So technically, we're right where we want to be. But here's the beauty, and I've stated this to you guys already, and I want to take a look at a couple of things. So the first thing that jumped out at me is net points. We're the only team that's remotely close to the playoffs that have a negative net point situation this year. And what this is you take the amount of points that you've scored versus the amount of points you've given up. And clearly, we've given up 213 points, and we've only scored 191 points. The Giants were pretty interesting too, because before they played the Houston Texans, I think this number was something like 6, right? They had won 6 games. They were 6-2, and their net points was like +6, which is crazy for a 6-2 team. But I mean, you look at the Bucks; they're net 3, but they're 5-5. They're not 7-2 like the Giants. Anyway, we're -22. We got some work to do. The win over the Eagles is a step in the right direction. That was a +11 for us. So hopefully we'll score more points and we'll continue to hold opponents down. We've had 6 straight games of opponents scoring 21 points or less. So hopefully we can keep that going. As you can see, we got to do a better job of playing at home. We're 2-3. We're better on the road right now as it stands. We're 3-2 on the road. So we got to do a better job of taking care of home. We're not a good home team right now. Obviously, the Eagles win was our first divisional win of the season. We were 0-2 going into that game, so that's good to get that notch under our belt. We haven't been taking care of business in the conference. Some gut-wrenching losses to the Lions and especially the Vikings a week ago really hurt you in the conference. That's why it's going to be imperative that you take care of business. And the beauty of 2 things I want to point out. This last column here, last 5, we're 4-1, which means we're playing exceptional football right now. Eagles are 4-1. Vikings are 5-0. Seahawks are 4-1 in their last 5. Giants are 4-1 in their last 5. So we're playing amongst the best football in the conference. We're right there with some of the top teams in the conference in terms of what we've done of late. We just started slow, obviously, which is why we're sitting here at 5-5. However, that bodes well for us moving forward. If we continue to play the kind of football that has allowed us to climb back to 500, we're going to be a dangerous team, and we're going to find ourselves right in this mix when it's all said and done. But the beauty of it is, the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I've brought this up before and I'll keep bringing it up, is that we play a lot of these teams. We just beat Philadelphia. We should have beat Minnesota. We play the Giants twice more. We play the Cowboys once more. We play the 49ers. We've already beaten the Packers. We got the Falcons a little bit later on in the season. So everything that we want is in front of us, and we have all the teams on the schedule. If we want in, all we got to do is win football games. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Beat the teams that you need to beat, and we won't have any issues. Don't leave it to chance. Don't hope that somebody else is able to take care of business for you. Take care of your own business. I've always told you guys, I'm not worried about, even though I am keeping a watchful eye on what's going on with Dallas and the Giants and the Eagles, I'm not concerned with what they've got going on. I'm lying, but still, focus on us. If we take care of what we got to take care of, then it'll all take care of itself. So that's where we stand right now in 8th place. A half game behind the San Francisco 49ers. They've got the Arizona Cardinals on the road on Monday Night Football. So we'll be keeping a watchful eye on that football game. And don't sleep on some of these teams back here at 4-6. They're right there in the mix. You know, a loss by the 49ers, a couple of wins by these teams, and they're right back in the mix. So this thing is jumbled up here. You know, I'm trying to separate myself from the likes of the Packers and the Falcons and the Cardinals and teams like that. The only way to do that is to keep winning. So we gotta get on our horse and take off and leave those teams and start to separate ourselves and see if we can't catch a team like Dallas or even the Giants, depending on what happens in the division. Hell, maybe even Philadelphia if they start to falter, you know. But you got to win football games. You can't talk about catching anybody in the division if you can't play consistent ball and start stacking some wins. So hopefully that Eagles win is the start of a new streak. And that's what I was referring to when I talked about what being 5-5 could mean for this team. And I want to stop there, talk about what Ron had to say, and then we'll get out of here. Ron talked about not overlooking the Houston Texans. He actually mentioned it last night after the game. So that lets you know the mindset Ron has. He talked about, hey, and I talked about it too. You know, I briefly mentioned it. I didn't want to rain on our parade. We were excited. We were celebrating the win. I didn't want to talk too much about looking too far ahead. But that's a real thing. You know, you get so amped up about beating Philadelphia. You expend so much emotion and energy. Don't allow the Houston Texans to then sneak you, because everything you just did against the Eagles is canceled if you don't beat the Houston Texans. Everything you did in that ball game goes for naught. So you gotta take care of the Houston Texans. It's not going to be easy. They put up a fight against the Giants. They put up a fight against the Eagles. They're not going to lie down for us. And if we go in there slipping and tripping, they will beat us. Okay? And Ron made it a point of emphasis to say, hey, a lot of people have been talking about the next 2 games and what it could look like. We're not doing that. And I love that. He said, we're not doing that. It's 1 game at a time. It's the Houston Texans. We got to focus on them. Lovie Smith is going to have those boys ready to play. He coached under Lovie Smith. He knows what Lovie's all about. He said he's going to have them prepared to play. And if we're not, they're going to take us out. So Ron has the right mentality, and I think he's going to convey that message to the players to get them to understand. And Jonathan Allen said the same thing last night. Like, this is great, but this isn't the Super Bowl. We got more in store, and we got to take care of business. And if we don't win any more games this season, then what the hell did this game mean? So got to take care of the next one. Texans are up on the schedule. Ron made it a point of emphasis to say, hey, we are not overlooking them. We're not even talking about Atlanta. We're talking about this upcoming game on Sunday against the Texans, and that is it. And that is the mindset that I want to hear from the head coach. So that's where we are right now. Really good situation for this team after the win. 5-5 after what we've gone through and how we started the season off is about as good as you could, ask for. We could be 6-4 had we beaten the Vikings. That would have been nice. But at the end of the day, we're probably right where we should be. But now you're back to 500. It's a clean slate. Now go from here and play the kind of football that you're capable of playing that will allow you to have a chance. And so, feels good. Victory Tuesday feels good. F them. F them. All right? They're no longer undefeated. So have fun with it. I am. You should too. But just know we'll be turning the page here shortly. All right? Can't keep dwelling or can't keep holding on to the fact that we defeated the Eagles. They got a game to get ready for against the Indianapolis Colts. We got a game to get ready for against the Houston Texans. So got to turn the page, but I'm going to celebrate some more today. I'm going to celebrate a little bit more tomorrow, but we're going to turn that page as well tomorrow and start looking ahead to the Houston Texans. Remember, short work week, so everything is going to be, very rapid and happen expeditiously. So remember, we're live tomorrow night, and I'll be live actually tonight with Rio on his channel. And so I think we're getting a whole gang together, Rio, Ed, Rico, and myself coming together all over on Rio's channel. So if you got some time, come check us out. Should be a lot of fun, especially after that win. Should be a hell of a lot of fun. So looking forward to it. In any event, enjoy the rest of your evening. You know I will. Shit, I've been enjoying myself the entire day, being a damn troll and, being as petty as I can possibly be. I'm not done. I got more in the chamber, but I might save it and spread it out over the rest of the week. All right, they're going to hear from me, okay? Because they were piling on. The shit that they were doing earlier in the season, they were piling on. So I'm going to put that shit on thick, heavy. And I'm not going to stop. So anyway, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day. Hopefully y'all join us later on tonight for the live stream. If not, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the live stream here on the Louie T Network. You know what it is. Y'all have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The